Okay, we come to the book of First Chronicles. And First Chronicles and Second Chronicles, I told you, is somewhat repetition of the historical books. What you have seen from First Samuel to Second Kings. First Samuel, Second Samuel, and First Kings and Second Kings. And especially this First Chronicles, the book of Chronicles, tells us the events recorded from Second Samuel to Second Kings, apart from First Samuel. Okay, Second Samuel, First Kings, Second Kings, and the history during this period is recorded in the First Chronicles and Second Chronicles. That means you don't see the things recorded in First Samuel, but from the events recorded from Second Samuel. And but the thing then you may ask a question: then why this history is again repeated? Because we read about the reign of David in Second Samuel, okay, about Solomon, and then what is the need of this history once again? So when you read it, you will come to know that even though this records the events during the same period, it's from a different perspective. The perspective is totally different. So it is not just a repetition of the events of the same period, and the divine editorial is trying to see the events from a different angle, from a different perspective. And that means the Second Samuel and First Kings and Second Kings, in these three books you read the political history of Israel and Judah, especially the unified nation, the political history, whereas in First Chronicles and Second Chronicles you see the religious history or the spiritual history of Judah and Israel. So that is the difference. So if you want to know more about the political incidents, the political events, the political history, you need to read 2 Samuel, 1 Kings and 2 Kings. And how God sees that. What is God's purpose on that? That what we see in the spiritual history of the spiritual perspective is seen in this First Chronicles and Second Chronicles. I can put it in a different way. Actually, the Second Kings, the Second Samuel, First Kings and Second Kings, that tell us a prophetic perspective. A prophetic perspective. That means in a prophetical way, the history is unfolding in those three books. But whereas in these two books, that is the First Kings and First Chronicles and Second Chronicles, the spiritual significance of the events during those period, especially during David's reign, okay, and also, as I told you, the spiritual history, okay, the religious history. That is what not merely religious history, the spiritual interpretation of these things. And originally, these two books were written or considered as one book, First Chronicles and Second Chronicles, and then at that time in the Hebrew Bible, this book is called Deber Hiyamim. Deber Hiyamim means the events or the words of the days. Events of the days, that means daily events. Okay, that is daily events. And or the events of the times, we can translate like that. But the Greek translation of the Old Testament, what is it called? Septuagint. Okay, during that time when it was translated into Greek by the 70 scholars at that time, this was given a different title, and that title is no need to remember these Latin names. Paralipomenon. Paralipomenon. That means the things omitted. That was the title given. Okay, the original title was the daily events, the events of the days, and when it was translated into Latin, that means into Greek, that means the Septuagint, this was given a different title, and that title is the things omitted. I will tell you why that title is given. Then actually this was given an additional title, that is concerning the kings of Judah. That was the additional title given to this. And then the title of the book as we know today. What is the title? Chronicles. This was given by one of the early church fathers, Jerome. That was in the 4th and 5th century. Okay, so he gave the title we know today. The book was first called Chronicles. Chronos, we know chronology, isn't it? Chronometer. We see that chrono means time. So chronology means, or chronicle means the daily events, a diary, of events. That is what we can say. See, so that is the title we know today. So this title was given by Jerome when this was translated into Latin. That means Latin Vulgate. Okay, that is what we need to understand. So this is a brief introduction to this book. Forget about the names of the book, only remember the Hebrew name or the basic Greek name as it is given in your textbook. Okay, no need to remember other things, but remember a few things from what I said. What is the difference between these two? This is the history of these two books and the history recorded in the three books I mentioned earlier, which was the book, First, Second Samuel, First Kings, and Second Kings. Okay, the main thing is these two, these two groups, Second Samuel, First Kings, and Second Kings, one group, and the same history is repeated in First Chronicles and Second Chronicles, but the perspective is different. Okay, the former books, they tell us the story of the history in a political perspective of the political history, and here it is the religious history or the spiritual perspective. And the first part is more prophetic, okay, than spiritual, and the second part is more spiritual, and that is what we need to understand. And originally, this First Kings and First Chronicles and Second Chronicles was originally a single book, and when it was translated into Latin, Jerome named it Chronicles, and he divided also it into First Chronicles and Second Chronicles. Okay, he divided this into. And the next question is, who is the author of this book, or who may be the author of this book? We cannot exactly, for certainty, we cannot say who the author was. Okay, only we have some kind of assumptions. That means we don't have the book never tells us anything about the writer of this book. Okay, but we can conclude based on certain things that is written. That means whenever you conclude who the author of the book is, we will take some internal evidence. That means the evidence that we directly get from that book, and we also look into external evidence. That means the evidence that we get from outside the book. Okay, and so most of the theologians, most of the Bible scholars think that this book was written by Ezra. Okay, Ezra may be the author of this book. There are some evidences for that, some evidences to conclude that. Not just evidences, but there are certain reasons to conclude that. The main thing is, more than what you read in Second Samuel, First Kings, and Second Kings. I told you that's the political history. And in between, I told you one of the titles given to this book in the Septuagint is of the things omitted. Okay, so that means this book contains more things that are omitted from the other three books. So what are the things omitted mainly? Actually, when you read this book, you see a priestly emphasis in this book. This book tells more about priests, more about the temple, more about the temple ordinances, more about the tribe of Levi. Okay, so some weightage is given more to the Levites and the priestly activities. So therefore, it is right to conclude that this may be written by a person who belongs to a priestly class. A person with a priestly perspective. Ezra was a priest. Ezra belonged to that tribe. Okay, and also that is one of the reasons. Ezra is the priest, maybe the author. And because this book gives more emphasis on the temple, more emphasis on priesthood, more emphasis on the theocratic line of David in the southern kingdom of Judah. Okay, so these are some of the reasons to conclude like that. And also the style of writing of this First Chronicles and Second Chronicles is the same as the style of writing of the book of Ezra. Okay, and exactly when you read the last two verses of this book, 2 Chronicles chapter 36 verses 22 and 23. Please read that. Now 2 Chronicles chapter 36, closing, 22 and 23.
Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia,
Yeah.
that the word of the Lord spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writing, saying, Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth, the Lord God of heaven has given me. And he has commanded me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people? May the Lord his God be with him, and let him go up.
Yeah. Now read the book of Ezra, chapter 1 verses 1 to 3.
Now in the first year of Cyrus,
king
of Persia, that the word of the Lord spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah.
See, that's enough. Am I right? That means the last two verses of the book of 2 Chronicles is somewhat same, somewhat similar. Not exactly similar, but very, very closely similar to the opening verses of the book of Ezra. Okay? So that means this may be, the Ezra may be a continuation of 2 Chronicles. Just like in the New Testament, the Gospel of Luke and the book of Acts. Okay? The Gospel of Luke was written by Luke, and the book of Acts was also written by Luke. So that succession, continuation. Okay, where Luke ends in his Gospel, he picks up the story from there in the book of Acts. In the same manner, where the story ends in 2 Chronicles, the book of Ezra picks up from there. So it is very apt to conclude that who may be the author. Ezra, the priest, may be the author. And we have some other reasons to think so, because Ezra was a very educated man. Ezra was a scribe. Ezra, the book of Ezra, chapter 7-6 says that he was a scribe. What is the meaning of a scribe? During the time of Jesus, scribes means the people who are scholars, the people who had some doctorates in the law. Law means in the Pentateuch, the Mosaic law. Don't think that only the commandments. That is the Old Testament. Don't think that some of among us. I'm not talking about secular people. I'm talking about pastors. I'm talking about some of the people. They are doctors. And one person told me, I am the most educated among the pastors in Mumbai. One person told me. I asked him, what are your qualifications? Then he said his qualifications. Then finally he said, I have a doctorate. I asked him from which university. He told me it is from University of Jerusalem. Or you may wonder, University of Jerusalem, what a scholar this person is, but everyone, those who have some interaction with such things, know that University of Jerusalem is a one group university in Chennai. If you pay 30,000 rupees, you will get a series of MCQs, multiple choice questions. You just answer it, you will be awarded a doctorate. There was a man in Kerala, was T.S. Balin. He called such people are chumma doctors. Ezra was not like that. So why I said like this? There are people who are struggled it so hard, spent years and years and researched and worked hard and finally got a doctorate. Okay? The thing is that these people are made equivalent to the other people. Okay? So we may sometimes doubt the people. When Ashish and Rasha, they went to Bangalore, there was two other resource persons. One was Dr. Edicharya Naina. He was very popular among us. He was the earlier principal of SIAX, one of the very leading Bible colleges in India. And along with him, there was another resource person, Dr. Sajeev Ibrahim. He is a professor in of the New Testament in Cotton Theological Seminary. And I know him. He has come to Bombay when I was in Nehru. He spent some days with us. He has taken the Bible class. And is such a talented person. His PhD thesis was the Gospel of John. He researched for 5 years, I think more than that. Struggling a lot because he had no time to go to the Bible college and teach at that time. He had no pastorship of a church. He and his family survived survived very badly during that time. But still, he pursued his studies, and finally, I think last 2-3 years back, he got a PhD. So that there are other people like that, who struggle very hard and study. But at the same time, the people on the other extreme, without studying a single thing, as a I don't know what to say. So okay, I will come back to the book of Ezra. Ezra was not a man like that. He was a well-studied man. He was a scribe. Yes, such as in Malayalam we say Shastri. Okay, and the doctor of the law, Nathaniel, was like a scribe. That is what we think. And but during the time, why he was called a scribe or a in Malayalam, Shastri, in English, scribe. Scribe means one who writes. Prescribe, proscribe, subscribe. The English words we know. Scribe means write. When you go to consult a doctor, he will prescribe something for you. Am I right? What is prescribe? Writing something in advance. No. What do you need to take? That is prescribed. And so scribe is related to writing. You know that there was no printing earlier. No press, no printing technology. So how did this Bible, copied? The people writing in handwritten copies. What do you call it? Manuscripts. Okay? That means a person used to write the entire book. Not everyone will be able to write that. People with more focus, more attention, more devotion, especially the Jewish people, honored this book very much, respected this book very much. So they had to write it very reverentially. And so some people were assigned for that. And those people are scribes. So what is the advantage of that? When you write the book more and more times, you will become more and more well versed with it. You will study the book, study the verses by heart. So most of the scribes knew the Bible of that time by heart. So they could interpret it also. So that means they became more and more scholars in scriptures. Okay. So this Ezra was such a man, and we don't read in our Bible, but the Talmud and also the apocryphal books tell a different story. The apocryphal books tells us that Nehemiah was the political leader of that time. The book of Ezra, the book of Malachi, that was the last book of the Old Testament, and the book of Nehemiah. These three people lived during the same time. Remember that. Okay? And Nehemiah was the political leader. Nehemiah was the political leader. And Ezra was the temple, religious leader. And Malachi was the spiritual leader. That means Malachi was the prophet. He prophesied. Ezra was the priest. And Nehemiah was the political. Nehemiah was the president. Okay? And Ezra was the chief priest in some sense. The priestly matters he overlooked. He superintended. And Malachi was the person who had a spiritual insight, who gave the prophetical utterance, prophetical word. That means the message from the Lord directly. So these three people. And Talmudic story says that this Nehemiah, you read about Nehemiah, he was a cupbearer in a palace. So he had immense political influence upon the emperor. okay, of that time. So he had a very nice library, a very good library in which Ezra had access. Don't think that which verse is that. Don't ask me. In our Bible it is not written. It's a Talmudic story. Maybe right. Because this First Chronicles and Second Chronicles are written after the exile. This, who was Ezra? Ezra was among the people who came back after 70 years of captivity in Babylon. So this is written after exile. This is a post-exilic book. So from where that man who lived during exile and who came back after exile came to know all the prehistory of Israel and of Judah. And see, Nehemiah had collected all these things. Okay? All these books. So from that collection of books, maybe he might have come to know. But from the book of Daniel also we know that the people in Babylon had access to the book of Jeremiah, maybe to some Pentateuch, other books, okay, like that. So thus he came to know this story. And so that is what we can understand about the author of this book. And one more thing I will tell you, that means the time of First Chronicles and Second Chronicles, and especially the time of First Chronicles. Go home and I give you a homework and read the first 9 chapters of First Chronicles. Have you read? No, try to do that. If anyone read that 9 chapters patiently, sitting at one stretch, I will give you a precious gift next week. A very valuable gift. Try to read that. And tell me. No? Then tell me next week. I have read it at a stretch, in one sitting. Okay? At least, even if you have not been able to remember all the names written there, you will get one good character, patience. Long suffering, because the entire 9 chapters tell us only the names. Okay? Without any address, without any information about such people. Okay? And that means the genealogies, chapters 1 to 9, tell us the genealogy of the people from Adam to David. That is first 9 chapters. First 9 chapters tell us the genealogies from Adam to David. And in chapter 10 to 29, then suddenly changes. It changes about the 33-year reign of David. For how many years David reigned as the king? For how many years? 40 years. But this says about only 33 years. 33 years means in the first 7 years, David was king over a small group of people in Hebron. That was 7 years. Then after 7 years, David was anointed as the king over the entire nation, 12 tribes. The full Israel, the full Judah. Okay? And this First Chronicles tells us only about that story. That is why I told you this is a book of omission. This book omits the early incidents in the life of David. His anointing, this time that he was haunted by Saul. Okay? Saul's enmity with David. Then the first 7 years of his reign in Hebron. All these things you can read in 2 Samuel. But these things are not recorded in the First Chronicles. Okay. Then immediately the story changes after chapter 9. That means from chapter 10 onwards, the writer focuses entirely on this 33 years reign of David in Jerusalem. Okay. That is what we need to see. That means of the United Kingdom. And finally, the book comes to an end with the story of, when we come to the second Chronicles, you can see Zerubbabel. That is what we go when we come to the end of the second Chronicles, you can see. And I'm talking about both the books together. And Ezra, this is introduction. Ezra probably completed this Chronicles between BC 450 and BC 430, because that was the time the people began to come back, and they see the remnant come back. And as I told you, there were three leaders were there during that time. Who were the three people? Ezra, Nehemiah, and Malachi. Okay? And there were some people in between also. Haggai, Zechariah, all these people stayed, lived during the same time, but these three prominent people you can read. Okay? So that is why when you read this book, even a casual reading, you will come to know that the writer spends a disproportionate gives a disproportionate weightage to the reign of David, to the history of David. So some of the people, because of this, some people think that the writer of the Chronicles is biased towards David. And when we read this book, we will also come to know that this book does not contain or does not write any of the negative sides of the life of David. Okay? There are many things that happened, the sinful deeds that he committed in the life of David. But the writer of Chronicles never mentioned it. So these things are omitted. And see, the key, I will conclude with those. What is the key of this book, or the key chapters and key verses? We know that the key verses of every book we study as memory verses. And that is First Chronicles chapter 17, verses 11 through 14. And then chapter 29, verse 11. Okay? First Chronicles 17, 11 through 14. And it shall be, when your days are fulfilled, when you go to be with your fathers, that I will set up your seed after you, who will be of your sons, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build me a house, and I will establish his throne forever. And I will be his father, and he shall be my son, and I will not take my mercy away from him. And I took it as I took it from him who was before you. And that means from Saul. And I will establish him in my house and my kingdom forever, and his throne shall be established forever. These verses are the turning point of the events in the book of Chronicles, and also it is the turning point of the history of the entire Bible. And this is God's words to David, God's promise to David. Okay? Even today, that is not fully established, fully fulfilled, but it's partially fulfilled through the birth of the Lord Jesus Christ as the Son of David. So these verses, 11 to 14, 4 verses, we call it as the Davidic covenant. God is making a covenant with David. God is making a covenant. I will establish your kingdom forever. I will establish your kingdom forever. Okay? And then 29 verse 11. Yours, O Lord, is the greatness, the power and glory, the victory and the majesty, for all that is in heaven and in earth is yours. Yours is the kingdom, O Lord, and you are exalted as head over all. Okay? Then the key chapter is the same as we have said. It is First Chronicles chapter 17. That is the key chapter of this book, and that says about the Davidic covenant recorded in 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel and 2 Samuel 7 tells the same Davidic covenant. That is repeated here again. Okay? So these are the introductory words, and the rest of the things you try to read the survey of the First Chronicles. I will just try to summarize it next week here if I am getting time. If you study by yourself, because that is the summary of the book, the survey of the First Chronicles, and the first 9 chapters I told you, the genealogy from Adam to David. That means Ezra is trying to find out the Davidic line. Okay, the Davidic line. And then 10 to 29 is the reign of David. And when you read the first, so I told you, Malachi is the last book of Old Testament. Ezra was contemporary to Malachi, isn't it? You know, Ezra and Nehemiah. If so, when you take the Hebrew Bible, this Chronicle is the last book of the Old Testament. Chronicles is the last book of Old Testament. Okay? That is how it is arranged. Chronologically, it is very right. And which is the first book of New Testament? The first book of New Testament is Matthew. Matthew begins with the genealogy of Jesus Christ, starting from Abraham. Now we connect these two stories. The last book of the Bible, Old Testament, tells from Abraham to David. That means going through Abraham. And Matthew starts from Abraham to Jesus Christ. That means some part is overlapped, but that story is without any break. No? So what was the contribution of David? The greatest, contribution of Ezra, that is the writer of First Chronicles and Second Chronicles. The greatest contribution is that how Jesus came into this earth. That line is connected. Even if the people of Judah were lost into captivity for 70 years. And Israel went into Assyria's captive and never to return. But still that story got kept intact. That means God is working through history. That is what we can see. Okay, so the reign we can see here. Okay, may the Lord bless us. So go through these books. I had some more things to say, but the time is not permitting me. It's almost 10:15.